Hey, Mr. Putin, how about you stop shooting? Turn those tanks around. Let Ukraine rebound. Help your people peacefully. Y'all speak close language. Do good biz like Germany.
Fine greetings to all of you listening, to those who are chasing their bliss, and to those who found it and are living it every day. It's Friday, October 20th, 2023, and this is Fortell's Fortune Told. I'm your host, Fortell. This is a show about music and musicians, songwriting and performing, and the stories of real people investing themselves into this art form because it's who they are. I'm going to start with some thoughts for the day. One of the things we do as musicians to get our music out there, to keep performing and try to make some money, is to go and do some busker-ing. And for those of you who don't know that term, it's basically being a street musician. Going somewhere that you can just drop down, open up your case, and start playing, and hopefully make some tips. So I've done this quite a few times throughout me being a professional musician, and I have some thoughts on it and some advice that I'd like to share. I would say the first thing is the location. Usually there are places in cities, in towns, that are conducive to busker-ing, and there's probably other street musicians there too, and not just musicians. Where I'm in Colorado, Denver has the 16th Street Mall as a place to go. And really the best busker-ing place in the state of Colorado is the Pearl Street Walking Mall in Boulder, Colorado. So I've mostly go to Pearl Street if I'm going to busker, and so most of my experiences are from that, though I have buskered in New York City and Washington Square and Park and other places, and in Denver. So I do have this experience, and I'd say it can be a wonderful experience. It can be also a scary experience, a strange experience. It is a great way to get your music out there. People do listen. You'll touch people that you don't necessarily know you'll touch. When I was in New York City, I was sitting there playing, and I had a woman in a full dress, Arabic garb from head to toe covered, only her eyes showing. I don't know if it's called a burqa or something like that. But she walked by and she stopped after she got maybe almost all the way past me. And I was playing country music, and she just turned around and listened, and then gave me a tip and said thank you, and then kept moving. Another great thing about New York, just because we're talking about it, is I heard a lot of drops of coins, so I got a lot of coinage tip, which I wasn't used to in Colorado. You don't get too much coinage. You get, dollar bills. And so just the sound of coins hitting the case is a beautiful sound that musicians love, I'm sure. But specifically, if you happen to be a local in this area in Colorado, and even if not, these tips will apply. The first thing you really have to think about when you're going on your busker-ing trip is you have to find parking. You need to find parking also that ain't going to cost you anything, hopefully, or costs you very little. You're there to make money. You've got to spend gas money already. You don't want to have to pay for parking. So real awesome secret tidbit I'm going to give you for if you're going to Pearl Street in Colorado here in Boulder. Go to the Pearl Street Walking Mall, but go down on the west side where it becomes a street road again with cars, and take that down another few blocks. And then you'll end up starting to find some open parking that actually is free 2-hour parking. So if you're only going to be buskering for a few hours or an hour or so, that's a perfect place to go. So you're welcome, Colorado musicians. So it can be pretty good tips. I think I've made $7 to $25 an hour. I think sometimes I've made more depending on what's going on, but just true buskering, not at a farmer's market, not, not someplace that's a festival of some kind. I don't know how much tippage to expect. I've definitely got some Venmos as well as just people listening to my music and checking me out via that as well. Sometimes you won't get in, I guess I haven't done worse than that, but I've heard people, not get any tips, and I'm sure that's possible. One of the things, I've also had a street musician pay me $5 to move to a new location because he wanted where I was playing and wanted the crowd that was around me. And I took him up on that and went down the way a little bit. It also, I'm sorry to say, but sometimes you run into some creepy folks. One time I was streaming live on Facebook and this guy came up to me, this younger gentleman, and it was a very awkward interaction. And we ended up talking about life struggles after he heard a song that I played by Guy Clark, where he thought the song was mocking him. This is a song called Good Advice, if you ever want to check that out. Love that song, love Guy Clark. But he said the song was mocking him, and then when he parted with me, he said, life is a struggle. It's also can be very violent and deadly. I think something like that he said to me. And so that was all on Facebook streaming, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad, because was he a future serial killer? I'm not sure. I got that vibe though. And so you just never know. Most of the time it's really nice people, like almost too nice. And they thank you greatly for being there. And I think most of all, it's just a lot of fun. Spotlight songwriting. Today I'm going to talk about something that happens to us all. It's called writer's block. You just get into a funk. There's nothing coming out that's good. You just can't get anything out. So you try and you try and you try. There's just nothing. And sometimes you just can't even try. So what do you do when something like that happens? Well, here's some advice. One of the things, if you can, I would just say stop for a while. Just get away from things. I think another thing you can do is maybe go see live music that's maybe different than your genre or just new to you. I think that might help the situation. If you can, go on a long journey. And by that I mean, not maybe a road trip for extended days or a week or so, or maybe it's just a long walk or a really long bike ride. But emphasize the long, stretch that out, because when you're going on a journey and you're away, your mind processes differently and you can think differently, and the new visual and stimulus around you, the sounds, the sights, can help trigger new thoughts. I would also suggest trying to go to like a new event. So maybe instead of going to see live music, go to see a comic, or go to see a poetry session, or go to see a play, or a dance event, or maybe instead of seeing something, maybe it's someplace where you are forced to meet new people. Like I recently went to a songwriter's circle, and you have to meet new folks when you're in a situation like that. So going to a new club or a meetup like that, and it doesn't have to be for music, it could be something else too, which also might help your music, on the contrary. So or maybe trying to go to a new open mic and playing your music and meeting some new musicians, or a new club or a new bar or a new pub. And finally, if you can't think, why don't you write a song about how hard it is to write a song? I have a song called Nothing Done, and it's a song that I wrote, and it kind of says, I can't get anything. I'm doing nothing. I've got all this time, but I'm getting nothing done. And I found that ironic because in writing that song, I actually was getting so much done because I knew that song was going to be with me and I was going to be able to record it and perform it endlessly. And I love it to this day. It's one of my friend Rick Marcolina, shout out Ricky Marcolina, It's one of his favorite songs of mine. So check out Nothing Done. And writer's block gets to us all. Don't worry, just keep on going, my friends. Tales from the Road. Well, I recently had a gig at Gilded Goat Brewing Company in Fort Collins, Colorado. Wow, that is just one of my favorite places and my favorite place to play music. They have a really great beer garden in the back, but I was inside with my buddy Rob Gonzalez, who's part of the Fortel duo. Rob had just taken a trip through southern Italy and was back in the States and brought his 43 Gibson and another guitar and just rocked the house together with me. It was super fun. I wore a new shirt. It's part of the story. It was like this blue, bright blue, kind of sky blue background, but like with stars shining and flickering all over it. But it was like a graphic, not a actual glittering and flickering. But I got some really amazing photos with that shirt. As the sun was setting, the outside sky became the color of my shirt. And with the lighting in Gilded Goat downtown there, it was so great. So that's all out there on Facebook if you want to see any of that. I do have to shout out to just how cool downtown Fort Collins is. If you haven't experienced Fort Collins, Colorado, it's something to behold. It's really an incredible vibe. It's its own thing. It's so far from Denver, and it's so far from Cheyenne, and it's different and yet awesome. It's incredible. And Gilded Goat's right there in the middle of it all. And so I want to shout out to Jed Hutt, who is my guy there. And he is an incredible promoter of music. And the guy has an eye for making art and photography and posters that I have yet seen matched. He's made some incredible stuff for us. And then Molly and Megan, who are working the bar there, just thanks to all those guys who helped us out. Shout out to y'all. I think another great thing to mention about this is I saw my college friends. Been talking about my college a lot on my podcast over the last couple of episodes. Well, I'm sitting there playing with Rob. Well, who walks in? But 5 or 6 of my college buddies I probably haven't seen in about 15 or 20 years, at least 10. But it was so amazing to see them all. And I just wish they showed up earlier because I played a lot of songs they would have liked before they got there. And I didn't know they were coming or I would have saved them. But that was part of the experience. It's always nice to see folks. And thank you all. Another thing from just this last week is I learned a new song by Neil Young called Unknown Legend. And I recorded it and I put it out there on YouTube. So if you'd like to check my version of that out, I just truly love Neil's stuff. And that song just came to me this week. Heard it on Outlaw Country Radio on Sirius XM. Shout out to Elizabeth Cook, who runs that. Man, just great show. I listen to it while I bike, believe it or not. It's cool to listen to Outlaw Country while you're working out, it turns out. But yeah, my version of Unknown Legend off of Harvest Moon from Neil Young out there on YouTube. Check it out, Fortel Music. Fortel's Friends. I am here with my friend, Mark Flett. Mark Flett is a singer-songwriter out of Boulder, Colorado. He's been writing songs since 1967. His songs feature his acoustic guitar, building through a chord structure accompanying his bellowing melodic baritone vocals. His songs often send you to another place and time, or make you ponder something important or artistic. Mark, thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
Oh man, I'm great just to be here. Thanks.
Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Let's see, Mark Flett.
Where are you from, man?
Born in Scituate, Mass. 6 months later, I had to move to Long Island, New York. And when I was 8 years old, I got to first grade in New York. And when I got to second grade, moved up to New Hampshire, and where they say live free or die.
That's right.
It's still on the license plate. and got into an old colonial house with 50 acres. My father said, what do you want in the house? And I said, just give me a place where there's a tree to climb. And so I got the chance to, he came back and said, I got a place with 50 acres in the backyard. And you got plenty of place. So when we got up there, we settled in with there's 6 of us, 6 kids and parents. And it turned out my favorite tree was across the street, maple tree, where I could sit there and like Sambo and be able to look out in the fields beyond me and dream about what might happen in life. And what's funny when you said 1967 is that's when my brother was in Vietnam. My next brother up, he was 7 years older than me, and another one 10 years older than me. But David was taking his turn. Howard, 10 years older than me, was in Guam supporting Vietnam, a little older, and David with what? Air Force, basically.
Sure.
Air Force return. And David was in Army, so he was away in '67. I wrote my first poem then in '67, and never turned that to music. But that's when I started saying, "Oh, something like this feels good. Feels good a way to express and communicate."
That's awesome, because that's kind of my first question. Besides that, was introducing yourself. Was, do you have like really early memories of music, like your mom or your dad or other family members, or even that moment there? Is there something that you think early on maybe predicted you becoming a musician one day?
Yeah, my mom. When we moved to New Hampshire, my mother was a piano teacher, and I watched her as a young baby. Watching her try to teach my older brothers. They're weird. And it was, so when we got there, she said, "Would you like to learn an instrument?" I said, "We have a good piano. Let me start there." And so she was nice enough to send me to Marianne Norman in Amesbury, Massachusetts, on the Merrimack River, who was nice enough also to chew on mint candies all the time. She taught, I think, everybody in the town, and my town, Southampton, how to play the piano.
No kidding.
And she also bragged the fact that she was a student of Tchaikovsky. She considered the greatest composer of all time so far in our recorded life in this eon.
Wow.
The Mayans say there are a few other eons before us.
Sure.
But we don't have much record under the water. But we're learning. No.
That's awesome.
Is that awesome?
So I described your music in the intro in a certain way, and because I've heard you a lot live, and now you've brought some of your recordings. Yeah. I'm curious, how would you describe your music?
I knew you were going to ask that. Well, we did Americana, and in the early ones, I had Chris Daniels, who produced me, and it was his first production, and I was...
and that was Soft Wave?
Soft Wave, yeah.
Nice.
And all the boys that played on that, girls too, sang, were all professionals that Chris brought in. I was just the novice, first time in the studio. And Mountaineer Studio in Boulder at 20th and Pearl. It's gone now. It's a nice little townhouse, I think.
Oh, no kidding.
But it was a fun studio and the rest. But no, learned a lot, and it's still got legs. Some of those songs still have legs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is a podcast about people who are real. They tell their stories. They invest themselves into music, into this art form because it's who they are, but it's not necessarily that's been their main career interest. So I often ask people, what other things have you done in life that have been somewhat of a career interest to you? I know you're a professional painter as well.
Well, I'm one of 5 sons, actually, 6 kids, and we all painted because my dad painted. But he was a pilot. Yeah, he was a pilot, and he said, "I got 5 sons, and anybody who wants to go to college, I will teach you how to paint." And he said, "I went to college, but I got drafted. They took 4 of the best years of my life in World War II." And so, but they gave him a chance to fly. My brother Duncan just, told me that he flew over 1,700 hours between 1942 and 1945. And he actually taught new pilots how to fly mountains like we have here, to get over the Burma hump, years ago. Only old people would know what I'm talking about.
It actually sounds like the latest movie about flying aces, if you know what I'm talking about.
Could be.
I've seen it a few times. It sounds like you have to go up and down and over things.
Yeah, you got to be able to know how to take those downdrafts as well as the updrafts. You like those updrafts, but the downdrafts kill you.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I rather let my brother fly me in his 727 or 777. You know, he's got one more year with United Airlines.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's a greatest person and pilot.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, Duncan.
All right, Mark. So here's the final 4 questions I have for you.
All right, 4.
So the first one: why do you do music?
It keeps me alive. It's what makes me whole. I have to play it, and I'm glad to share it. But every day I have to play and sing it for myself. And I have a special person at home that. Can't wait to hear. Can't wait to hear and needs to hear the music wherever that day. And I go, okay, so it keeps me fresh and allows me to go out and play in front of a lot of people. And then I when I have the passion and the inspiration, there's a song that has to come out, and it does, and I let it happen.
That's awesome. So, do you have any influences that that inspired you to write songs a certain way, or to just play music in general?
Oh yeah, I think the first inspirations were the Beatles, Paul McCartney and John Lennon. You know, those guys. You know, always had the best times together, and they were always fun. They had fun together. And like Paul, I kind of started with classical stuff, and we all do. And I hope and feel your responses sometimes. What songs might people have said, oh, you sound like Paul McCartney. Why do I do that? But maybe it's because I had a few moments living in New Hampshire, and I had that moment. Instead of living in New York all my life, I would have had a different kind of thought, or talk. Luckily, I came to Colorado in '78, and people talk like me. I'm
That's
home.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, what is one of your favorite songs that you've written, and why?
Most recently, I think, Just Gotta Live. Just gotta live with a few of those things. Could be diamonds on those rings. Things with meaning or send you screaming, but just gotta live with a few of those things. But the music was, more like what Chris Daniels was trying to get me to back 30, 40 years ago, and it's more swing kind of stuff. But so I did that, another swing tune, and it just let me be a little more relaxed. And as an older guy, I think that's probably where I'm going to be heading in other music.
That's awesome. So you've kind of come full circle from soft wave now to your recent songwriting.
Yeah. I mean, the most current is, of course, on Somewhere Man, and that's
right.
the one anybody can hear. The last couple of albums, I've never put on anything but my own private sales and maybe Amazon. But this one's a little more inspirational, And
Somewhere Man. Yeah.
Somewhere Man, can you be free sitting under a foreign tree? Is your homeland calling you where your neighbor's folly is somewhere, man? But, at the end I say, somewhere, man, you may not be free, but change can offer opportunity. Can you let your new world be and engulf your entity, And a man is free within his own being, not by what he thinks he's seeing. And so perhaps you can be free in your where you live, and the new tree you sit under. Sitting under a foreign tree or a new tree. I wrote that for a friend from China.
Okay.
And he and his wife made 2 beautiful, productive children. And I can't wait to see them sometime on the East Coast. It's been a long time. They're in Pennsylvania.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, last question for you, Mark.
Oh.
Any advice or words of wisdom for anyone else taking this journey?
This journey of life?
Musicians, music, songwriting.
Music, songwriting. Well, it's a journey. Like all the best songwriters, Stephen Stills and David Crosby and Nash, those guys who inspired me long ago in 1969. And then, Greg Lake and Emerson Palmer, those guys that also inspired me with their music because they had something to say that was important. And I felt like I might have something to say that was important. But I figured the only way to do that is to keep writing, and the only way is to make a contact with E.T. and have them sort of surround the world with nice, loving feelings while my 3 to 4 minute song gets to play, so that every time they're ready to throw that rocket or grenade or tank blast, they might go, oh, maybe not. Let me hold back.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Foretel's Fortune Told. I want to thank Mark Flett for joining us, and thank you so very much, as I appreciate y'all listening today, and feel free to interact more at foretelmusic.com. But for now, I'll send you into the sunset with Mark Flett's Hey, Mr. Putin. And I hope your journey is as expected.
Hey, Mr. Putin, how about you stop shooting? Turn those tanks around. Let Ukraine rebound. Help your people peacefully. Y'all speak close language. Do good biz like Germany. Support Ukraine's democracy. So turn those tanks around. Let Ukraine rebound. Let Ukraine contract. Let fight with your brothers to the west. Work out a plan that's best. Don't let your people freeze. Turn those tanks 180 degrees. Here, turn those tanks around. Let Ukraine rebound. Make a better contract. Make a winning path. Mr. Putin, soon the world will heal. There'll be no need to steal. We all have suffered loss. Let us build instead of toss. Yeah, turn those tanks around. Let Ukraine rebound. Make a better contract. Make a winning path. Protect us all, don't fall. Please put your short back on. Lead the right, not the wrong. Make the right, stay alive.